killed, and yet you can say chapter and verse about what's going on with the New York Times and MoveOn.org. Here we have a war that took the life of an 18-year-old kid, Jeremy Bohannon, from your district, and you didn't know his name.
Well, shortly after that interview, Schuster apologized to Congresswoman Blackburn. The key concern is, how will NBC's bias affect the Democratic Party? With us now, Democrat strategist Julie Roginski. And from D.C., Patrick Gavin, a columnist for the Washington Examiner, who heard Chris Matthews speak last night. Mr. Matthews declined to speak with us. All right, so were you surprised? This, I guess, was a book affair. He's got a new book out and a bunch of NBC brass there. Were you surprised at what he said? And tell us exactly what he did say.
Well, I think everybody was. I mean, this was supposed to be both a book party and a birthday party for the 10th anniversary of his show, Hardball, which, Bill, I know this will boil your blood. He did call it the greatest show on cable television.
That's fine. I mean, look, I want to make every clear. I have nothing against Chris Matthews. You know, he's one of the few people on that network with decency. And I'm sure he'd stick up for his show. Why not? I'd stick up for The Factor. But right. So it's a birthday party, and it's a gathering of NBC brass, and he gets up there and he says what?
Well, he made it clear from the get-go. He took the microphone and said, look, I think I'm going to make some news tonight, and he certainly did. Things first, he said that the difference between the Clinton administration and the Bush administration was that when he would slam the Clinton administration wouldn't call the brass at MSNBC and NBC and, you know, put pressure on him to stop doing that. He does say, though, that people in the Bush administration,
does he name those
Cheney's office specific. Well, you could tell he was singling out the Cheney's office, and the spirit of his remarks was that it was basically during the Scooter Libby case when, you know, night after night, Matthews really hit hard against Scooter Libby, and he said that, in fact, you know, Cheney's office did call MSNBC and NBC brass to put pressure on him to stop it. So that was number one. Number two, he seemed to relish the fact, again, going back to the Scooter Libby thing, that, you know, in his opinion, things didn't turn out so well for, you know, Bush, Cheney, and Scooter, and even said, quote, I'm glad that they've been caught in their own criminality. Later saying to Cheney, if Cheney had been president during the Cuban Missile Crisis, we'd all be living under a parking lot. And this certainly stunned a lot of people in the crowd.
All right. Now, there's a tape of this, and you wanted to get it. We wanted to get it. What is NBC? They're telling us we can't have it, but it's competitive reasons maybe. What are they telling you?
Well, you know, I wrote them last night, and I got in touch with them and asked, you know, hey, do you have a transcript, do you have video? They had NBC crews there. There were their own cameras, and they said no. They said that they might use some footage on it on tonight's Hardball. And my take on that is, you know, it's their party, it's their cameras. They can do what they want, but this is a news organization, and they are a news organization full of journalists who are constantly asking the powerful to let the sun shine in, to release footage, to release documents, you know, to expose the truth. And so when you ask them, look, I just want to take a look at the transcript, I just want to take a look at the video, and they're not willing to sort of hold themselves up to the same standard that they hold the people.
All right. Well, obviously don't want the video out. Sure. All right, Julie, let's go to you. Mr. Matthews is supposed to moderate a debate, a Republican debate, I guess, next week. If you were a Republican strategist, would you ask that he be removed?
Well, I don't think Chris Matthews' opinions are a secret to anybody. Chris Matthews is
That's pretty extreme, though. The Bush administration's a criminal enterprise. I don't think he's ever gone that far.
Well, he's gone pretty far. I mean, he's...
But I don't mind him criticizing Libby and all this stuff. I mean, that's personally...
Well, listen, I mean, these are all big boys of the Republican Party. They want to stand up and challenge Chris Matthews.
But if you were advising them, would you have a guy like Matthews, who's now out of the closet, so to speak, you know, doing the debate? I mean...
I would have, look, I would have hopefully done my due diligence and know what Chris Matthews' biases were before. Now that I knew them, what they were before, I certainly know what they were. If they've agreed to do it, they should agree to do it. If they have a problem with Chris Matthews, they have a national forum, this debate to challenge him, which is what they should do.
Now, as a Democratic strategist, I think you could probably use NBC. Obviously, they're rooting for the Democrats, and they want the Democrats to be successful. But can that backlash on the Democrats? I mean, how should they play it?
Well, look, you've got people like Chris Matthews who have their biases. You've got people like Joe Scarborough at MSNBC who have Republican biases as a former Republican congressman. So really. I would say to you, look, I mean, Democrats and Republicans should go on each of these shows if they want a forum on national television to talk about it.
Okay, but that's not our question. The question is, look, nobody watches Scarborough. I mean, it's like a test pattern. I'm not being disrespectful. I see the overnight numbers. He's not a player. Matthews is a player. He's got a syndicated program. He's got a cable program. He goes over to the Williams show. He's a player. This guy gets a lot of airtime. Scarborough is like, you know, somebody who's cleaning up.
Well, that must mean that more people.
So the Democratic Party, what should they do to exploit the advantage that NBC News, for the first time in history, is really offering them, giving them?
First of all, I would say that Chris Matthews is not a journalist per se. He's somebody who's an opinion maker, and he's got a set of opinions. That's something that may be more in line with the Democratic Party, and that's fine.
That's fine.
So my